In order to be successful, you have to serve other people. And the more and better you serve them, the more they will pay you, and they will happily pay you. So the very best thing you can do if you're starting with nothing is to sell something to somebody, a service, product, something, but find a way to serve people and reward them so that they pay you more than the cost of the service. You make a profit and you make money.
Welcome with the Brian Tracy himself.
Thank you. And my start is always, our goal is to help you to be far more successful in everything that you do by sharing some of the ideas and principles that other people have used.
And our job, Dad, is to help our listeners and viewers learn a little bit more about you. So, Dad, we have a good question that it's a good transition point. The question is, who were some of the most impactful mentors that you had as a young person, as a young man?
Well, the mentors I had were people that I read about. My first book was Think and Grow Rich. And my first book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's interesting, one of the biggest publishers in the world, Penguin Random House, called me last year and asked me if I would write a foreword to their new version of Think and Grow Rich. And they paid me a lot of money. I said yes. My money or thrust $1,000 bills in my hand. I say yes.
One of the most influential books that you read as a young man, you've now had the opportunity to write.
They came to me and they said, we have concluded that you, because of my success in speaking and writing and so on, you would be the perfect choice to write prelude to this book. And so I did. And it was a real honor to have cut your teeth on this book many years before, and then coming back and writing the prelude. You just keep moving forward. You keep taking advantage of every opportunity that you can. You work hard. I say you start early, work harder, stay later, and just keep hammering away. Eventually, you break through. And when you talk to successful people, they say the same story. I found something that was good. I worked really hard. I became really good at it. I got paid well. I got promoted. I got hired to new jobs. It's predictable. And you guys, I'm so proud of you, Christina and Michael. I've done the same thing. You've learned your skills. You've worked hard, and you've become successful. That's really wonderful.
What about in-person mentors, like people you met? And they don't have to be like long-term, but maybe they taught you something at a key point in your progress in your formative years. Was there anyone in person that did that?
Well, I had this experience. I moved from Vancouver to Edmonton, 800 miles, and Edmonton was booming at the time. Oil boom, all of Alberta was doing well. And so I moved there by myself. I took all my stuff in my car and I got a little apartment and rented some furniture. People were talking about making money developing real estate. I didn't know anything about real estate development. So I did what other people do. I went to the library, and this is where before email and anything else. This is like 1975, 76. So I went to the library and I checked out every book I could find written by real estate developers. And you know what? They tell you what to do. Do this, number one, number two, number three. How do you look? How do you find a piece of real estate? How do you find a piece of property? One of the most important pieces of properties in the city are on the go home side of the street. Why? Is because when people are going to work, they don't buy anything. But on the way home, they stop. Little things like that. So then I found a piece of property way outside of town in a small town, and it was a perfect piece of property for a shopping center. So I put together a complete shopping center deal. I asked for advice from everyone. I put together blueprints. I had an architect speculate with me, a builder give me the costs. Now I had this, but I had to close the sale. And to close the sale, I needed something like $1 million. And I didn't have any money. I went to the lawyer for this couple who owned the property. And the lawyer said, I'll give you 30 days to come up with the money. And I said, but he said, you have to give me a deposit. I said, well, I'll give you a deposit of $150, but please don't cash the check because there's nothing there. He said, Brian, I still remember this, man. He said, Brian, I think you can do it. So I'll hold the check and I won't tell anybody that I didn't cash it. And so then I went out and I just scrambled. I went to every single developer within 1,000 miles. And I finally found someone not far away from where I was living in my little apartment. And they looked at my deal and they checked it all out. And they said, this is the most perfect closing we've ever seen. We will put up all the money in exchange for 75% of the shopping center. And they did. And I developed the shopping center. I leased it out completely. And when we opened the shopping center, it was 100% leased. And I sold them the entire shopping center. And I got 25% of the money. And I was rich. I had money. It was amazing. And then the owner of this company, a man named Dr. Charles Allard, who owned about 200 companies and was almost a billionaire, one of the fourth richest men in Canada. He was the owner of all the companies. And he came to me on the side and he said, Brian, how would you like to come work for me? Well, I had no idea. I said, well, can I think about it? And I went to work for him. The shopping center was open and full. I learned from him. I worked for him for almost 2 years. And Dr. Charles Allard was one of the most wonderful, smartest men I ever met in my life. I keep meaning to write a book called The Doc and Me. He was a neurosurgeon, head of surgery for a major hospital, but he was an entrepreneurial genius. And so what he would do, it's like throwing a stick for a dog. He would say, go and do this. And often I'd do it and come back. And then he'd say, now change this, do more of this, less of that. And then he'd throw another stick. And I worked for him and he just kept giving me jobs to do, bigger and bigger jobs. By the time a year had passed, I was in charge of $25 million worth of businesses, 3 businesses. I'd been promoted from a little office at the very back of his building to the biggest office in his entire empire, except for his. And I had 35 staff and we were generating money and I made him millions of dollars.
And back to that shopping center?
Yes. The shopping center was the kickoff. But people ask me now, this is a really important point. In the movie Patton, there's this scene where Patton is directing the battle against the German troops that is supposedly being run by Rommel. Great movie, 8 Academy Awards and so on. And the German troops are pulling back. And he's watching this victory. And he says, Rommel, I've read your book. And Rommel had written a book called The Tank in Warfare. When I went to Edmonton, I thought, how do I become successful in real estate development? And people say, how could you develop $1 million shopping center with no money? I say, I read the book. Books. And it's a most wonderful thing. Anybody can accomplish almost any goal if you just study and take notes and then go out and practice.
Okay, so we meet people all the time. And what was the transition point between audio author to written author?
Well, I began speaking, and my first seminar was a personal development seminar called the Phoenix Seminar, the Psychology of Achievement. We had a recession, and people said, well, it's a wonderful seminar. It's highly motivational. It is still the best personal success seminar in the world in 39 languages. But he said, what we need is sales. We need sales. We've got to make more sales. We've got to make more money. And I said, well, I know a lot about sales because I've been in sales for 20 years. So I designed a program called The Psychology of Selling and took off. I could tell you stories that bring tears to your eyes. Large companies, hundreds, thousands of people attended the seminar and went out and literally doubled and tripled their sales income. Companies just went from struggling to financial success. As I became better known, I was approached by a literary agent, and she said, I work with all the big publishers. Could I represent you to write a book? And she did. That's how it works, by the way. The modern world, you need an agent. If you try to go to a publisher by yourself, they ignore you. You can't get in the door. So she was a very successful agent. Her name was Margaret McBride. She lives in San Diego. And she took me to one of the biggest publishers in the world. We did a 3-book deal. The books were successful. And then another publisher said, would you write a book for us? And then another publisher said, would you write a book for us? So I said, one after another, I now have published my 96th book, 96 books in 55 languages in almost every country in the world. I go overseas to do seminars. 500,000, 2,000 people come out to hear me speak in Uzbekistan or in Vladivostok or in Africa or South America. So it all came from the speaking. And the speaking came from incredible work to develop the seminars and put them together. And then I turned those into books and tapes and courses and videos and all kinds of good stuff. Well, I have contracts. I have contracts for publishers for 3 or 4 more books. So I just have to get the time, and I'll write the 101 books, and then I'll write my...
Yeah, you have a manuscript that's quite long about your early days, right? Is it called, like 1969 or something? I saw it on your desk, and I read a little bit of it. Can you talk about that?
No, well, what I did is I wrote the equivalent of 3 books on my 17,000-mile journey. And then I put a spin in the books, and I would say, and at this point, I learned this. So each of the books, which travels, first of all, from Vancouver to across the Sahara, and then all halfway through across Africa, and then the rest of the way, all the way to Johannesburg, where we were almost killed several times. And it's very interesting. So what I have is 3 books. The Success is a Journey, or I call them the Many Miles to Go, 1, 2, 3. And what I infuse in these books is the lessons that I learned later, all the lessons I learned about business and success and relationships and personal management and things like that.
Because I know Christina and I both love hearing your stories.
Yes.
And I know you're tuned up to always want to deliver so much value in the term of lessons. But lessons can be gleaned from stories without the aside.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, just a quick aside, behind this podcast is our dear friend Lanny Morton, who is a genius at AI. And when I first began writing the book, you almost have to start off with a handwritten, and then I decided to learn how to type. So I learned how to touch type, and then I found a professional secretary who could dictate it, so I could record it and he would dictate. But now with AI, you can write a book in your own voice, in your own material, far faster than it's ever been possible before. So if you give me a little bit of urging, then I promise you. And now we have AI, which is one of the greatest leap forwards in communication history. So I just say one point is that everybody has to learn AI, just like you learn how to drive a car or ride a bicycle or type the keyboard. You have to learn AI, and it will help you, save you time. It's the most amazing thing. So that I won't beat this up.
I think it's interesting because I've been reflecting on this, and my biggest issue is I forget to use it when I should use it. And I kind of go back to the old way of typing something up. And so I have this sticky on my monitor, and it just says use AI to remind me to not go back to the kind of the old way. Because the old way takes hours and days, and AI takes minutes. And you can get something that's 90% ready and just make some small adjustments and edits, and you're off to the races. So
it's astonishing. You can ask anything. How can I lose 5 pounds in the next 15 days? and AI will give you a diet, a specific course of action, and show you how blah, 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 change your. It's the most amazing thing. And you can get the answer in about 30 seconds. The most important thing for me is always time. And time, anything that I can do to save time and maintain the same level of quality, I will do. And what AI does is it saves you an enormous amount of time learning and finding out this kind of information. Let me give you a wonderful example. When I lived in Johannesburg, Johannesburg is the diamond center of the world. And so they have a lot of diamonds being mined in South Africa, but also they have diamond polishers. Now, a diamond polisher, one of my good friends was a diamond polisher, is what they do is they take the diamond, whatever, and they polish it. And a diamond has 54 facets. 54 facets, and every one of them has to be polished so it fits perfectly with each other facet. It's the most amazing thing. And then a stone is now worth hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. So it's the same thing in life. In life, there are many different facets, maybe not 54, but there's many different facets that you have to polish to have a good life. You have to learn this and you have to practice that.
So, hey, Dad, we got a really interesting question. The question is from Sky Waldorf. And the question is, if you had to rebuild your success from scratch in today's digital and fast-paced world with only your mindset and no connections, what would be your first 3 strategic moves?
Well, the answer is pretty simple. In order to be successful, you have to serve other people. And the more and better you serve them, the more they will pay you, and they will happily pay you. So the very best thing you can do if you're starting with nothing is to sell something to somebody, a service, product, something, but find a way to serve people and reward them so that they pay you more than the cost of the service. You make a profit and you make money. I'm 81 years old now, and in great shape, by the way. And if I had lost everything today, I'd go out and start selling. I'd find something to sell. I'd sell real estate. I'd sell investments. I'd sell life insurance. I'd sell anything. Because why? It's because when you sell something, you improve the life of another person. So that's what I would do. Is I'd immediately think, how can I serve other people and make a living? And at the beginning, you may not earn very much, but you better get started. And always think, if you want to become wealthy, which you do, then what you have to do is you have to serve other people. Earl Nightingale had a wonderful line, which is worth the price of admission. And he said, every morning you get up and say, how can I increase the value of my service to my customers today? If you work for a company, then Peter Drucker said, the most important word in business is the word results. And so you always ask, what results are expected of me? Of all the results that are expected of me, what is the most important result I can contribute to my company? And then when you start in the morning, you start on that and you work non-stop. Put your head down. 50% of working time today is wasted in idle chit-chat with coworkers. That's not for you. What you do is you pick the most important result and you start on that and you just work nonstop until it's 100% complete. Here's another really important point, is that all success comes from task completion. It doesn't come from task working on, task fiddling away with, running at. It comes from completing things. So if you develop the reputation as a person who completes your tasks, you'll get more and more tasks to complete, and they'll be bigger and bigger, and they'll pay you more and more. Task completion, task completion. And then you ask, what task would be the most valuable and important for me to complete? And start with that and work on it nonstop. Don't talk to your friends. Don't go for lunch. Don't waste time. Just work nonstop on your most important task. And that's the secret to success. That's the secret.
We have another question from Idonjaset Peter. What is the biggest challenge to create a positive self-concept?
Many years ago, when we went to a seminar off in the mountains, and what we learned was the most powerful words are the words, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. And people, thousands of people have written to me and told me that just repeating those words. And then they say, instead of I like myself, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. If you just repeat it over and over again, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it locks in. And when it locks in, your self-concept changes. You become a positive person, a happy person. Now, how do you speed up this process? You help other people to like themselves by telling other people how good they are. Because the more you give that message, the more people like themselves and love themselves and believe in themselves. That's the key to self-concept, is how much do you like yourself? And you can increase the amount you like yourself by just saying those magic words. I like myself. I like myself. I like myself.
Okay, another question. This is from Waluka. I'm goal-oriented. Do you have any advice for encouraging my girlfriend to plan goals with me?
Well, what you do is you help her come clear about what it is she really, really, really wants. You know, one of the things I do in my seminars is I ask people, imagine you could wave a magic wand and you would be guaranteed of success in any one goal in life. What one goal would you choose? Now, as soon as you ask that question, I call it's like a face slap. And just imagine you're guaranteed. You pick the goal and I'll make sure that you get it. Well, what would it be? And write it down. Write it down, write it down, write it down. Then the second question is, what one skill would help you the most to achieve your most important goal? Those two questions transformed my life when I was a young person.
It is often really hard for people to set goals, or they struggle to know what they want. But in relationships, you can make relationship goals. So the two of you are doing it together. So it's not necessarily an individual experience, but sort of, like, what kind of relationship do we want to have? What kind of trips do we want to take? What does our family look like? Do we want to have kids? Like, these are goals that you set as a couple. And if you start out doing that, it sometimes makes it easier to break off and have individual goals. And then you can support each other on your different goals. So, just make them more fun. Start with like, hey, as a couple, what's a goal for travel? What's a goal for something we want for our home or our family? And then break it into more, personal and professional development goals as individuals.
And start with small goals. Don't set massive goals to live in a palace in the mountains. When you're start with small goals that you both want to achieve. And remember, there's two types of goals. There's goals that you want to achieve, end goals, and there's goals that you have to accomplish in order to achieve them. For example, you may have to learn a skill. You may have to get a better job. You may have to move to a different city. These are we call them interim goals that you need to put yourself in position to achieve really important goals. And by the way, I see my friend Eric Swanson is on the comments. And Eric Swanson is a wonderful speaker. He's an author. He's just an absolutely super guy.
Sometimes I feel I'm stuck at certain points. How can I keep making progress without seeing results? How do you stay motivated when you're not seeing progress, Dad?
Here's an exercise, and it's so powerful, it should be illegal. I just taught it to a group of potential millionaires yesterday. Michael and I were there in Los Angeles. And it's very simple. You take a spiral notebook, and what you do is you write down 10 goals that you would like to achieve in the next year or so. And the next morning, you turn the page without looking back and write down your 10 goals again. Do this every day for 30 days. And you know what will happen? Your life will transform. It'll be almost like you push down a dynamite detonator. Your whole life will explode. You will double and triple your income. I know because I've taught more than 1,000 people this process, and they all doubled their income within 30 days. Many of them tripled their income. Now, I had a woman come to visit me, and she came from Ukraine, and she wanted to interview me and take photographs with me and tell me her story. And her story was very simple. She said that she was struggling. And as you know, Ukraine is war torn today. She was earning $500 a month and she was working hard. She began to write down her 10 goals. 3 years later, she was earning $500,000 a month. And my agent who had arranged for the conversation said it's true. She's one of the most successful people in Europe. She's got thousands of followers. She she's she's earning so much money. She's literally a millionaire or a millionairess. And she's happily married. She has 2 children, happy husband, nice life. And she said to me, Brian, it was this exercise. It was so powerful. So please do it. Please get a spiral notebook and join the top 3%. Join the top 3% who do it. The great majority of people always have an excuse. They have a disease called excusitis, which is invariably um, precedes failure. Excusitis leads to failure. So if you're going to do it, write down your 10 goals and we'll see what you're made of. By the way, I used to guarantee that if you come to my seminar, that I guarantee that you would double your income and double your time off. And every person who followed this exercise doubled and tripled their income within 30 days.
The double guarantee.
Everybody watching this, remember, has unlimited potential. This is one of the most important lessons you ever learn, is that your potential is limited only by your own beliefs. And so when you say, I like myself, there's 3 statements that you can use to double your performance and your effectiveness and your income. Statement number 1 is, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do anything I put my mind to. Statement number 2 is, I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. And the third statement is, I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. And if you say those 3 things over and over, it's like an oil rig drilling deeper and deeper and deeper. And at a certain point, it connects and you change your entire way of looking at the world. And you just say it all day. I can do it. I never give up. I am unstoppable. And you guys are, I'm happy to say, all 3 of those things.
How much time does it take to create a habit?
Well, a good friend of mine says you can sometimes develop a habit in a couple of seconds. For example, if you lean and put your hand on a hot stove, you'll develop the habit of not putting your hand on hot stoves for life. We're referring to a time when Michael was told not to touch the stove, and he kept.
And I did anyway, because
Anyway, and he's developed the habit of never touching the hot stove. The reason I say write your goals every day for 30 days is that in almost 100% of cases, it will become a habit for life. I learned this little technique when I was in my 20 and just starting off. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. I'll just give it a try. And why don't you give it a try? I was just thinking of a quote from Shakespeare. It says it's the smell of the rose lingers on the hand that casts it. So whenever you say anything good or nice or positive or helpful to other people, it actually helps you as much or more than the other person. So always build up other people, always congratulate other people, always encourage other people to do things. And just as Lincoln once said, everybody likes a compliment, So when you compliment other people in your home, your family, your business, when you compliment other people, it makes them happy and it makes you happy as well.
I think that's great. I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening and for all your wonderful comments. We will be doing this next week on the Brian Tracy Experience. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christina, for helping me co-host.
Everybody, set some goals and take action.
You can do it.